Hi, it's Ileana, and today I have on the Awakening Cosmic Reality Show Victoria Reynolds, who is a wonderful luminary. Welcome, Victoria.
Hi, thanks. It's so glad to be here. I'm so happy to be here today, and thank you for the invitation.
Oh, thank you. And today we're going to be talking about the Metatron Cube, Metatron, New Earth, and Victoria's beautiful new book that she's writing. She's been writing this book for a year now, so she knows a lot about Metatron, Metatron Cube. She's been channeling the information, so it'll be great to hear from Victoria how this whole project has been like for her.
Yeah, I started getting the message about a year ago that I was going to be writing a new book, but I didn't quite know what it was. I knew it had to do with New Earth and that I would be working with Gaia. So she's basically working alongside, not necessarily the message coming through her, but it's more of the support, and it's all about New Earth. But a couple of months ago, I realized it was Metatron who was communicating specifically with me. And so I had to do some research to find out who he was. And he's the scribe of God, which makes sense then why he's the one that's communicating this with me. So what he's been showing me is what our Earth is going to look like in the future. So I'm getting a glimpse of what our future looks like, and so that we can all work together to envision it. One of the things that started to prompt this book is that people have been asking me, well, what can I do? What does this new Earth even look like? How do I get involved? What can I do to help create it? And I've been telling people, pick a system that you want to be a part of recreating. But that doesn't seem to be quite enough. People need to actually visualize what that is. And I mean, that's really why we have television. It's tele-vision. So the information that we get on television is telling us what to envision. So I started understanding what we need with these books is to teach people what this new vision looks like, so that they even know where to put their energy and where to put their focus. So this book is what he's showing me what the future looks like, so that we can start envisioning it and we can start creating it. So if people know what it is to envision, then they can start putting their energy into creating that vision. Mm-hmm. So what's been really great is has been showing me how each one of our systems will be recreated and what they look like 10 years down the road. So it's basically a 2030 plan for New Earth.
And how does that look like?
Well, it's interesting because what I was being shown about a year ago is to take the 2030 agenda. It's the NWO 2030 agenda. You can see it. It's all over the internet. It's called the 2030 agenda. It's the agenda that the dark side has for what they want our Earth to look like when they're finished doing their process that they're in. So what I was shown a year ago was to take the same 17, which is really interesting, the same 17 systems that they talk about in this 2030 agenda and flip the script into a 2030 plan. So the agenda is the dark side and the plan is the light side, God's plan, if you will. Mm-hmm. So it's taking those same 17 things they talk about in this 2030 agenda and changing them to be a love-based plan. So the first chapter is dedicated to what those 17 things are. And I actually turned it into 18 because there's one more they don't talk about, I think intentionally, and that is what entertainment is going to look like. So I've added the conscious entertainment in there as well. Mm-hmm. So and then all of the following chapters are all about each system, how each system is going to look, how our education system is going to look. And he's actually said not to call them systems anymore. He's actually calling them concepts, because the word system was created as a systems of control. So the idea of systems of control will actually no longer exist. We're going to be creating new love-based concepts. And concepts might be different from one community to the next, depending on what a community agrees upon. So an education concept in one community might look different than an education concept in another community, although the overall concept will be the same in that our education programs will all be child-centered rather than system-centered.
Mm-hmm. Because we have to rehaul the whole financial system, something different, like quantum computing has to come in.
Right.
to be fair based and to have fair trade back.
Right.
And not just money, printing wasteful paper money that has nothing, no energy. It's zero, is just zero functionality. It's an old operation system.
Right.
The way people interact with each other, the workplaces, the buildings that people work in, it's all skyscrapers. It's all tons of brick, if you will, mortar, brick, and it's just not based on foundations that are healthy to work in. All of those things.
Right. So Mama Gaia, as I call her, she calls those phallic symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And that all those high-rise buildings were built basically to worship the masculine. And those are going to be coming down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because why do we need so many banks? Why do we need so many skyscrapers for people to live in? Like, I see these apartments that cost a lot of money for a 2-bedroom in skyscrapers. And they have a balcony. They say, oh my gosh, it's the new type of living. When you're living on the 15th floor and you're looking down, what kind of living is that? I don't like these these heights of skyscrapers going up, up, and up. Where's the plant life? Where's the respect for nature, for Mother Gaia? Because our forests are diminishing, our wildlife is diminishing. There's too many parking spots. There's too many malls. There's too many of these things going up higher in the sky, but we're not doing the work of looking down on Earth.
Right.
So
there might still be some of those. What I was shown is that certainly the corporate buildings, those are all coming down, and there will be gardens put in their place, because those high-rise corporate structures like the bank buildings, the only purpose those serve is to enslave humanity. They don't serve any other purpose except for the enslavement of people living. You go to work and you sit in your little cubicles in your little offices. They're just enslavement buildings. They're as she called them, phallic symbols, and they're just boxes to keep humanity in. And that will no longer be working in those big boxes. So the corporate structures are all going to be coming down. The bank buildings will all be coming down. Banking actually won't even exist, because it really serves no purpose in this new reality we're creating, because banks right now exist to take people's money and hold people's money and use it for their own benefit. We won't even need that anymore, because our prosperity will be like direct with source. So the quantum system that's being put in place, we won't even need banks, because we'll be working directly with the quantum system.
Exactly.
And that now, with regard to apartment buildings, my understanding, what I was being shown, is that some people will still choose to live that way, but they'll live that way by choice and not because it's the only thing they can afford. So some people won't want all of the work that goes into maintaining a house and land and property and all of that. And they might actually prefer apartment living. But right now, a lot of people who live there because it's the only thing they can afford.
And well, the way our houses are built, like right now, it's brick and mortar and wood. So it's a combination, and plaster and other things. So will that change the way our buildings will be built as well?
Not immediately, but yes, they will be. So what Metatron was showing me is how to use his cube. I have this one right here. I keep this on my desk.
Oh,
how
nice.
to use his cube as a model for, he started calling to me a couple of years ago. So I've had Metatron cubes all over my house, but I didn't understand what he meant by it until I started writing this book. But what he was showing me is how to use this cube design for pretty much all of our structures. We can build our houses in this particular structure. Not that the houses themselves are all circles, but the ley lines between the rooms, the way that they're structured, it actually creates this energetic continuity that is like energetic ley lines between the different rooms. And our buildings will look different. They won't just be boxes. I started noticing that a couple of years ago as I'm driving through my neighborhood. I'm like, all these people, we just live in boxes and we live in grids. It's like humanity has all just been put in their perfect little grid and their perfect little box. And everybody stays in their own little box. And that idea of living in boxes and living in grids, that's going away. For one, all of our buildings will be self-sustaining, so we'll no longer need to live in these grids, these electronic grids, and the roads that are all laid out in perfect little grids. We won't need any of that anymore. So a lot of that we're actually going to be getting rid of.
Yeah, in our energy sources right now, we're on electrical, we're on fossil fuels. Those will all be gone as well.
Right.
All of that will be gone. Electrical towers will be gone, and everything will be crystalline based, right?
Right. And he was actually showing that we won't need nearly as many lights as we have, because right now we have street lights everywhere. But when the air is clear, the stars will shine so bright that we won't actually need street lights.
Yeah, because I've seen versions of future Earth, 5D Earth as well, and it's crystalline based. Everything, we are crystalline, the environment is crystalline, everything is very different. And there's no cars driving, polluting roads, and the roads are off. It's all going in the air. Like there's flying hover cars that use zero point gravity.
Right.
So there's no pollution, and nothing is on the ground anymore.
Right.
So,
yeah, all of our roads, they'll all be dissolved, for lack of a better word. I was shown a couple of years ago working with who was I working with? Ezekiel. He came in February 18th of 2020. I remember specifically when he came in and started communicating with me. He came in with his spaceship, which is actually a space-time capsule. So what he's been doing was taking people off the planet, removing entities off the planet that don't belong here and taking them someplace else in his holodeck. But what he was saying is, he said that the Earth that we're living in is going to look very, very different, and they have the technology to basically dissolve anything. So we don't have to deal with the implosion of these big giant buildings. They will just be dissolved.
Yeah.
With the asphalt and all these ugly buildings. I look around and I just see ugly buildings everywhere. There's such little beauty. And the buildings that do remain will have gardens on top of them and green everywhere. And yeah, so what he was showing me is, even, for example, our new wellness centers will actually look like Metatron's cubes. They will actually be built in more of an octagon structure rather than square, rather than boxes. So it's different when people talk of Metatron's. A cube is different than a box. If you look at Metatron's cube from a multi-dimensional perspective, you can see the cube that's within it, but it's not limited by the box. It also has these spheres that are around it that actually, the circles actually represent the divine feminine. So, and the straight lines represent the masculine. So every building will have both masculine and feminine energy as well.
Right now it's very unbalanced, especially in a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment. If you don't if you don't have a flex space, you just have 2 bedrooms and hallways, and it's so cramped. Like, I couldn't imagine living in an apartment. I haven't for years, and I can't, because it's just too cramped. I like open spaces. I like solution-based living that's not cramped, and that's like, you don't see your neighbor next door, what's happening in their house. I just don't want to see that. So
I agree. Yeah, they built a house next door to mine about 10 years ago, and every day I'm looking right at my neighbor's house. Where before, the house that was there before was a little 1-story building, and mine's 2 stories, so my bedroom's on the 2nd floor. And it's too close. And it would be nice for there to be, a couple of spaces between houses instead of 6 feet away.
Yeah, that's kind of when I was looking for my current house. That's what I was looking, 6 feet between one house and 6 feet between the other, and 10 feet at least between the other 3 houses. So it was like thinking outside linear time into future time, how things would be built in the future, but looking for a place like that in the now that sort of doesn't cramp people together in a neighborhood. I found that it was not easy. I looked at 100 houses before I found what I needed. And I live in a place beside the beach, and there's a lot of trees, a lot of forest life, and there's a lot of critters. So I'm getting creative with a rock garden in the summer because I have raccoons that come over. These guys are super strong. Like we put like little river rocks around the trees so they don't dig up under the roots and don't dig up the bark, but they just take the little rocks and play with them and take them away. And so I was meditating today. How do I create a serene rock garden that helps to save my trees but doesn't ruin anything in the environment? And Source told me, just get bigger river rocks. Those guys are not going to carry those away. Make a nice big pile around the roots of the tree and just pile it up and create a beautiful rock garden. Like make it rocky, make it look like a rock structure around the perimeter of the trees. This way I'm not encroaching on nature and I'm respecting nature, and I'm allowing these raccoons to climb on the river rocks, but they're not going to take it away and dump it into somebody else's yard, because once they finish playing with it, the rocks go somewhere else. So it's like redesign what doesn't work to make it function better in a new capacity. So it's like new earth. What doesn't work anymore gets dissolved and something else new, beautiful comes in that works better, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that is what is going to start happening is we will start to see old structures dissolve that just don't serve us. And that will be shocking for people who are attached to how they think things need to be, but it doesn't really serve us.
Yeah, exactly. I've had the little river rocks for 3 years, and the raccoons are slowly taking all of them away. So they're doing the job for me. Now I just have to clear the H blocks, because I had H blocks around the sort of just to put a perimeter. But that's not working either, because when it's raining, the earth under the H blocks gets eroded away and they sort of open up. So it's like, okay, remove them, use the H block to expand the next garden down the side, because we've created a few gardens. So to grow food. So the H blocks are gonna expand that garden. I'm just gonna put river rocks around 3 trees. It's time for something different. So I'm understanding change is important for all of us. Change is something the earth needs. And that's kind of the event horizon. It's sort of like the event, right? That so many in hypnosis are seeing. That's the event.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting. I started hearing the word event horizon about 2 years ago, that an event horizon was coming. And I heard it again 2 days ago. There's something, well, there's an event horizon planned for 2022. I don't know what it is yet. And I've tuned in and I've asked the guardians what it is, and they're not telling me what it is. They don't want anybody knowing what it is, because they don't want anybody spilling the beans, so to speak. So it's going to be a big surprise to everybody.
Yeah, and it's an increments of the event horizon. What I saw long term was it's happening throughout 100 years. That's what, because it's a process. It's steps in the event horizon leading up to the huge culmination. And I like I said, I can't say what I saw either, because again, it could change reality. So that's why, but it's there and it's coming. Like I've felt it for the last 5 years. I've seen the same event horizon for the last 5 years. And I say to people, practice patience. Look within yourself to the changes you need to make. Don't look into the outside world for a reaction or an answer, because the answers come from within and the change comes from within you. The outside world is not going to help you make your change. It's the inside world that's within that makes these changes possible for us. We need to look within ourselves, because we are the creators. We are our own change.
Absolutely. Yeah. And people keep looking for a savior outside themselves. not understanding that we actually are that. We are the ones we seek, and that we're the ones that are creating the reality. And I know growing up super religious, it took me a while to grasp that God doesn't change things for us. We actually do. We are actually God consciousness, Christ consciousness within ourselves, where we are the divine intervention we seek. And I think as people start to really grasp what that is, that God creates through us, that is actually how we're made in the image and likeness of God, is that we are creators, that we'll really start to understand we create our reality, and we'll start working together. This is all about all of us working together as one humanity to recreate our worlds.
Yeah. And sometimes you can call him it, he, she, whatever you call it, God, source, spirit, source, creator. Today, while I was meditating, I asked spirit, so what should I do with my trees, with the garden? And I got, go look on the internet for raccoon proofing your trees. I'm like, what? Go type raccoon proofing your trees. I typed that in, and what people are doing is the rock garden, like they're just piling river rocks in a creative way to protect the roots of the trees and the bark, so that the raccoons don't take away the heavy river rocks. It's as simple as that. Raccoon proof it. Put some dirt under it, then put some river rocks, and that's it, and leave it alone. There's nothing else that needs to be done. So Spirit said it's really easy. The answers are on the internet because others have done this already. You're not the first to try to look for a solution. Look for a solution within. Don't just sit by the tree and look what you're going to do with it. Look what other people have creatively done. But I didn't have to go to the store to look at 5-7 different types of rocks. I just looked on the internet for what other people have done with their gardens, and the solution was there. I didn't have to go actually drive to the store to see rocks, what's available to, like before the internet, we would have to drive to the store and look at all the different rocks available, or, material to safeguard the trees. Now you just look on the internet and there it is. But in this new earth, this is all going to be quantum mechanics in our brains, where we don't even need the internet to access that knowledge anymore, because it comes from the universe.
Right. Well, and so the internet, that's a perfect example of ask and receive, right? You asked, you got the answer, you received, and the internet has allowed us, as close as we've been able to get to this point, instant manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
The internet allows us to almost instantly get those answers. And as you said, as more and more and more of us raise our vibration up to be in that consciousness, the ask and receive is as simple as asking what I do with my raccoons, and you'll see a visual pop into your head of what to do with the raccoons. You won't even have to go on the internet and look for it. You'll just know the answer.
Yeah, and I already saw that, the big river rocks, but I also double checked on the internet, and it was just a beautiful confirmation.
Yeah.
I found several different images, and some of them looked good, some of them didn't. And I just saved the picture that best described the solution that I needed for this problem. Just create a nice pile, like, and you go up. You don't just dump them on the ground. You sort of build this little arc to make it pretty. You put some earth underneath as a foundation, and you just build up around. And you create this sort of beautiful rock garden formation. You don't just put stones any which way. You create a little build, circular dome build around. And to me, it looked pretty. I have a lot of rock formations already in the H block garden design that we did. So the H blocks will be reused, and the river rocks will go up against the trees. And it's like healthy way of looking at a solution.
Right.
I can't get rid of the raccoons because my mother loves these things. There's 20 of them, and they come for dinner every night. So that's non-negotiable. Those creatures stay because they're my mom's love children. She loves animals. My dad loves them. So they're staying. But the solution for the garden has to change. So it's going to change in a positive way. Because the solutions are always there in front of us. We just need to look for them. Instant manifestation, like you said. And
And in the past, what people would have done is, how do I get rid of the raccoons? And they'd put out raccoon poisoning or whatever. And that's not part of the new earth reality we're moving into. The reality we're creating is what's best for all concerned.
mm-hmm.
And so what's best? And that you've got a solution. That's a solution that's best for everyone. It's best for you. It's best for the raccoons. It's best for the trees. It's best for your mom. It's great. It creates a win-win-win.
Yeah, that's the only solution I can come up with, because again, the raccoons are non-negotiable. They stay. They've been with us for 3 years and they're not going anywhere. And like we were discussing, these guys come with families and they sniff out the food, and it's their memory banks permanently. They're not going to just go away. So they're part of my family, and I respect their needs just as much as I respect my own, or my garden's needs and my parents' needs. So this is like a whole community project, really, because I respect nature. I don't put out poison traps for raccoons. I don't entrap anything or anyone in my living space, in my environment. It has to be as community friendly as it can be for all creatures, because we were born with the creatures. Man is not the top model of what this society has taught us. We need to live in equality with all creatures and life on earth in balance. Because what we have now, this is not balanced. We don't respect creatures anymore. We encroach on their land.
Well, and that's what's interesting. I hear people complain about the animals. It's like these, whatever it happens to be. I'm like, they were there first. So we encroached on their land, so we can't complain about them actually being there and doing what it is that they do. But that's why human beings want to get rid of the animals that happen to be there before them. And we really need to learn how to live in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
With
yeah.
And not even I don't even like using the term creatures. We need to learn to live in harmony with these beings, because they are also sentient beings.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in harmony with them. And that is what I believe we're moving more into as well. Is I am seeing people move back out of the cities and back into nature, and which is the opposite of, again, the side of light and the side of dark are kind of mirror images of each other, or the dark is an inversion. And so in the 2030 agenda, the idea is to bring everybody into the cities and out of the country, because you can control people in the cities. And so that's why you see all these big high-rise buildings going up. In China, for example, in Shanghai, China, they have rows and rows and rows and rows of these big high-rise apartment buildings that don't have anybody. There are no people in them yet, but they've built them to bring people from the country into the city, because the dark agenda is to get everybody out of the country and into the city, where they're easier to control. The New Earth plan is to move people out of the city and back into the country, where people are more free.
Exactly. And some people are really awakening and starting to form their own. They're buying acres of land, like 75 acres. They're just buying land to create eco villages.
Yeah.
They create their own smart off-grid communities. They co-share. They can buy houses, but they're not. They pitch in to buy the land, but they don't own blocks of the land. They buy the house to build on the land, but the land is everybody's to co-share,
right,
and be responsible for. So all of them work together in these communities, and they have like 250. There's one eco village in the US that works perfectly. They have 250 people living there, but they plan for 500 people. And they have 3 communities, 3 independent, you could say, we have different systems, different neighborhoods. They have 3 neighborhoods, so that they built on the 75-acre lot of land, and it's farm. They have farm, some of it. So they said 10% for building, 90% for the environmental system, like sustainability of farm, growing food, and beautiful environments, like a creek, where people can have green space, they can go to the creek, they can relax, the kids could play playgrounds. So it's 3 neighborhoods that each are a little different from each other. And they've made it work since 1996.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I grew up in a community that tried to be like that, but the issue is it was religion based, and so it was still very patriarchal, and there were the men at the top that controlled how everything was run, and the community garden, that it just didn't work. There's still people there. It's still about 800 people that live there, but because it's based on in a patriarchal system, it actually looks more like communism than an open community like that. An eco community where there's no one person that's in charge of the whole thing. So it's interesting because that being able to decipher, I mean, the concept, the general concept of communism and the idea that everyone lives in a commune and everyone is equal, that idea is great, but it's the implementation of it is that you have one class that's in charge of everybody else, and that the people that are in charge of everybody else controls what everyone else is allowed to have and is allowed to do. And so that's kind of how I grew up, in that supposedly everyone was equal, but it still wasn't. There were still 2 classes with that system, because it was a patriarchal system, and it was still run by people who thought that they deserved to be in charge. Where these new communities that are going to be created, these sustainable I don't even like using sustainable, because the word sustainable has also been hijacked, and it really means sustain. And I'm sorry, but mere sustenance is just not good enough for me.
No.
Right? So the word sustainability is really about sustenance, and in the dark agenda, if you will, it is about humanity sustaining. And those of us who are here to create new earth are like, no, we don't want to just sustain, we want to prosper.
Yes.
So we want to create prospering communities, not just sustainable communities.
Well, I guess we could call this eco village, self-independent.
Yeah, well, I think that's awesome. So they're all rather than it being systemized as the community was that I grew up in, what you're talking about is every person, it's an interdependency, which is where codependency is based in fear, where one person is dependent on the other. The idea of interdependency and cooperation is that everyone is able to depend on everybody else.
Well, they designed it in a co-op way, where everybody does the share of the work and everybody participates. They have 3 communities, 3 neighborhoods that are each distinct, yet similar in some way. They all get together, and within every community, there's that little co-op that takes care of that particular community. But then they come as a whole, and they have meeting spaces, like a communal building where they all come together and plan things out. So, and it was 4 women and a couple of guys who actually invested into it. Originally bought the land together. So it wasn't just women or men, it was a combination of masculine and feminine doing the work. And they have experts in all fields of life. They have architects, they have lawyers, they have gardeners, they have builders. So they've made their community inclusive to everyone who wants to be part of it and who can bring their own expertise to make the community even better. So they're very inclusive of all walks of life, of all genders, of all races. They're very welcoming, and it's been there since 1996, and it's thrived. So these guys have done something right because they've worked as teams. They've communicated. They've put everything they had into this.
Well, and they've proven that cooperation works.
Yeah, they sure have. It's amazing. It's like when you work together, when you communicate, when you are equals, and it's a co-op. So it's not like it's mine or yours. Their houses is theirs. They buy into the house. But the land, they share. So it's kind of like you can't just grab a chunk of the land and say, that's mine. I bought it, lock, stock, that's it. It's everybody's. Everybody contributes to taking care of it and to make it flourish and thrive. And they've built beautiful gardens. They've built farms. They have 2 farms that's self-independent. They grow their own food. They're not dependent on the city over to buy anything anymore. So it's quite amazing what you can do when you connect with like-minded people.
Absolutely. Yeah, everything becomes possible. We've just been living in a reality that says that it's not, and that we have to do things a certain way. You have to grow up, you have to go to college, you have to get a job, you have to, right, all of those things that we have to do. And that keeps us stuck in this repetitive cycle of, well, really it's the enslavement system, right? It's get a job working for the man, even to that's part of the narrative that was passed down. And it has until 2020, really, when a lot of the old systems began crumbling, was that people got jobs working for companies that were bought by other companies that were bought by other companies that now we have these massive global empires. Actually, it's like the new age of imperialism, where the empires are actually corporations, and these corporate empires, basically people are taught to go to school to work for a corporate empire. And there's nothing free about that. It's this false sense of security. And that a lot of people are starting to realize they would rather have freedom than control disguised as security. And I think that's a big part of what 2020 did for us, is that woke a lot of people up to the idea of, yeah, I don't really like going to a job in a cubicle every day. That's just not working for me anymore. And I think a lot of humanity is starting to wake up to the truth that model just is no longer working.
Yeah, and 2021 started bringing in these mandates. You have to get that thing done in order to go to work, in order to go get food, go to a restaurant.
Right.
Well, no, you don't. You don't have to do anything or get anything done to yourself to be free, because we are free. Nothing can take away freedom and sovereignty unless you give that freedom and consent and say yes and go get that thing 4 times or 3 times, whatever, what the man said is the new mandate. It's happening everywhere in the world. It's like you can't travel, you can't leave certain areas anymore. It's like, who says? The government?
Yeah, we'll just make our own rules.
Yes. Yeah, like
there are going to be enough of us that say, that doesn't work for me. The old system doesn't work for us, and we'll just start creating our own, as I said, our own communities, our own education models, our own wellness, well-care models. We'll just start creating our own models. We'll just start building new earth on top of the existing reality. And eventually what will happen is all those people in the old reality will start to see what we have and see that what we have is so much better.
Well, we have freedom and free will, choice, and free thinking and autonomy to make wise decisions. A lot of my friends, they've gone and done that thing in order to travel, to leave the country or countries. And you see, next year they might say, 4 more or 5 more of those to leave the country. So every time you want to travel, you have to get another one. No, thank you. I don't consent to that.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any place I have to go to, quite honestly. I really don't. I love to travel, but I don't have to.
Because you're creating your own beautiful world within your reality.
Everything that I need is within driving distance. I can get in my car and drive where I want to go to.
Yeah.
Now it's twice as expensive as it was a year ago because gas has gone up so much, but I'm still free,
Exactly. Yeah, same here. I like to travel, but I don't have to because I have everything that I want here. There's so much beauty in our places where we are. I understand people want to travel. I understand people want to leave and they want to be free. But again, freedom, what is freedom to you? To one person, it's one thing. To another, it's another thing. But freedom is not being mandated to do something just to survive.
Right.
That's slavery. That's not freedom.
Yeah, it's just interesting how so many people can't see that.
Well, I definitely see it. It's encroaching into different countries now. It's coming to Canada, it's coming to the US. We're all about sovereignty and liberty. There's the Charter of Rights, there's all kinds of things that we have, but what's that 20, 30-year agenda.
Yeah.
That's part of it. The corporations, the big pharma, all of that is to make more money and keep us in a money-based system. It's not to make us free.
Oh yeah, quite the opposite. They really would like for us to all to not be free, to just blindly follow the rules, right? And it's all about control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's being sold as no more crime, for example. We're going to completely eradicate crime, which sounds good for crime to be completely eradicated, but it would be eradicating crime through fear rather than through love. And what we know is that when you're living your life from the energy of the heart, that crime ceases to exist.
Mm-hmm.
The jails cease to exist. All of that ceases to exist because when you're living your life in the vibration of love, there is no desire to cause harm.
Exactly.
There is no desire to steal. There's no desire, none of that. Like crime ceases to exist because there's absolutely no desire to commit a crime.
Yeah. Plus
Love-based reality, it ceases to exist. Where what they want to do is get rid of all crime through scaring people and through fear. And that's completely different. It's eliminating crime through fear and control. And so we have to really look at, again, a disease, eliminating through disease through fear and control, rather than eliminating disease through love and through health and well-being of the body.
Yeah, and not releasing bioweapon diseases in the first place.
Right, but it's that the inversion. So the light side is that disease doesn't exist because the body is well, and disease actually means dis-ease. Diseases exist because we're out of our natural state of ease. And then the flip side is it's all about, well, one, creating the disease because there's so much money in it, but and then getting, potentially eradicating disease, but doing it again through fear and control. So the side of light is all about love and freedom, and the dark side, the inversion of that, is fear and control. So
yeah, exactly.
We choose which one of those. It's that you'll be free to go grocery shopping if you have the chip in your hand or in your forehead, but that's not really freedom. It's that somebody else gets control when you shop, where you shop, where you get your stuff from, what actually goes into your food is controlled. And we're choosing the opposite narrative of that doesn't work for us. We want actual real freedom.
Yeah, same as putting chemicals in your body. If you put the chemicals in your body, you can go buy your food and you can go to the restaurant, you can go to your entertainment. But if you don't, you can't. So it's the same thing as if you put a chip, if you put a chemical in, then you can go and do whatever. The thing is that chemical, we don't really know what the chemical does long-term to the body. And the more you put it in, the more it's stored in your body eventually. It just doesn't just dissipate, it goes into your cells in your bloodstream. And the more you put in of it continually every 3 to 6 months, it stays there to some degree. So it doesn't just dissolve and disappear.
Yeah, it builds up. But part of that, again, is that they're selling it as safety and security. That's why I talk about these things are fear disguised as love. It's control disguised as security. And freedom disguised as safety. So it's deception. It's fear disguised as love. It's deception disguised as truth. And so it's being able to look at the narratives and decipher what is true and what isn't, and what is fear disguised as love.
Right.
So they're selling it as safety and security, but it's really fear and control.
Yeah, divide and conquer, to take the rights away, take freedoms away, take liberty away, and take the right away to move freely throughout countries. Before you needed a passport and a visa to go somewhere. Now you need a passport and a visa and your little card, your V card.
Right.
Or QR code.
Your QR code.
Yeah. So
and the goal is to eventually replace the QR code with a chip.
Yep. Transhumanism.
Yeah.
At its basic form. So it's like taking away the natural and the organic to keep us under lock and key, to keep us under surveillance, because the chip tracks where you go. It tracks where you go, what you eat, who you sleep with, who you don't sleep with, what you do at night, what you don't do at night. It tracks everything.
Yeah, and people will buy it because they'll be sold to them as for their own good. It's for your own good. It'll be so much safer if you don't have to carry a purse with you because all of your financial information will be on this little chip. You don't have to worry about being attacked at night because everybody's being tracked, and so if there's a bad guy that comes after you, we'll know who did it, and it'll be sold as that. But it's control disguised as safety and security.
Yeah.
So those are all just little steps to slowly wear people down to eventually get them to that point.
Yeah, it's biohacking the living system that does not need to be hacked or biochanged. It's good the way it is organically. So right. you don't, transhumanism is not connecting to divinity. It's not connecting to spirituality. It's disconnecting from that. And it's connecting more with the metaverse.
Right.
And we don't need to walk in a holographic reality with VR programming in our chips, because then we don't see what's in front of us. We're in the game of the matrix and we're not evolving anywhere. We're staying static in a 3D based environment that's not teaching us anything new.
Yeah, and on a soul level, we came here specifically to learn. Where in that reality, that matrix reality they're trying to fully instill is all about just existing. Just exist, and then you cease to exist. There isn't, we as souls came to experience what it is to be human. And this, what we call the great human experiment, to experience all of the emotion and the contrast and everything that came with actually being human. And that would be taken away. It would simply be, basically existing in a body and then no longer existing. But I don't think that that's the agenda that they're trying to push. I don't see that happening because there are so many of us who are focused on creating heaven on earth, this love-based reality, which is completely the opposite. Because it's based in love, we will have absolute choice, absolute conscious choice. So this fear-based 3D reality they're trying to create is it's all unconscious choice. So your choices are still there, but they're unconscious and they're based in compliance. So it's really choices made in coercion aren't really free will choice. And that's something I think people need to start really grasping. I started understanding that about 10 years ago when I was having conversations about religiously motivated polygamy, because I grew up in a polygamous cult. And we were talking about how these women who choose to become polygamous it's not really a choice because it's based in coercion. And so then it's not really a choice if it's based in coercion. And that's what we're facing right now globally with these arm jabs, is that it's not really a choice, it's a coercion, which is a violation of freedom of choice.
Exactly. I mean, some people choose to live in a three-way menage relationship, and it might work for them because they freely and willingly agree to work as a team and live as a team and function as a team. So to them, that makes sense. But if you're living in a cult where there's polyamory and you're told, oh yes, you're gonna be part of 3 wives and 1 husband, and you're gonna be sharing. all the duties of the
And
wives.
it's actually not polyamory.
No.
There's a huge difference between polyamory and polygamy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Polyamory means many loves. Polygamy means many marriages.
Exactly.
And it's actually a marriage contract, and they're told that they're married to this person for time and all eternity. You're locked into it for eternity.
Yeah. That's why
Yeah.
I just call it a simple menage relationship where 3 or 4 people are living as a unit in love and agreement, and they choose that life. It's not chosen for them.
Right.
And so it's based on understanding the concept of what you are agreeing to or not agreeing to live in and participate in.
And then people can choose to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's what the difference is, that the way that I grew up, it wasn't a choice, and you also didn't get to choose to leave either. Although some women did eventually figure out how to leave. But when it's a choice that's based in coercion, it isn't really freedom of choice. And my understanding is that those who are violating the law of freedom of choice will be held accountable in what we've heard referred to as divine justice. So whether that happens on earth or not, I don't know. But they're breaking the law of freedom of choice, which is the prime directive for our planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people ask me, why don't the ETs come and save us? Because we have to save ourselves and wake up to the understanding.
They can't. They would be infringing on our freedom of choice.
Yeah. I mean, some people are asking and giving, consent to be saved and freed. But the thing is, these beings are in a different reality. They're not on our planet. They could save us if they wanted to, if we asked them on a mass level. The thing is, what lesson would we learn then? We have to get our own freedom. We have to figure out how to get our own freedom and how to not depend on others for our freedoms.
Right.
Again, it's just another savior complex.
Absolutely. And that's what I was shown by Ezekiel when he came in a couple of years ago. He said, we'll help you clean up the mess, but you made the mess, so you have to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come and help with the cleanup. So for example, the implosion of these big buildings, they have the technology to just dissolve them, but we made the mess. We got to clean up the mess we made. We have to choose to liberate ourselves from it, and we have to create the reality when they're not going to do it for us. He said, we will not do the work for you. We'll help you, but you have to do it for yourselves.
Yeah. So it's like, we're the ground crew. We are responsible for the planet and the cleanup. They're just the sky crews that will come in to remove the buildings. But the ground, the cleanup work, the restructuring, that has to be done by us.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's like the rock garden metaphor. We put in the H blocks. Now we have to take the H blocks out, take the little river rocks and the salt rocks out. So I will need to sit there and sift and collect and put that in a different spot because we have little river rocks for garden path to the sheds. So I'll put that there. I'll clean that all off. I'll add more dirt, and then the bigger river rocks will come in and the stacking will begin. That's ground crew shift, the change of the guard, if you will.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be fun.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, it will be interesting to see all these old systems and brainwashing fall down and the new concepts come in, because it's going to be totally different. I've seen this too, seen their new earth. I just never really talked about it with anybody who's seen the vision as well.
Yeah, and it isn't going to happen overnight, but what is going to start happening, my understanding is this year. So in 2021, we did a lot of talking about it. We did a lot of having these conversations about what we want it to look like. I think in 2022, we'll begin the implementation of it, but it's not like New Earth is going to happen next year. We're in the transition phase is going to last for a while. You know, I don't, however long it takes, 10, 20, 30 years. It won't be complete, as you said, for about another 100 years, but the initial transition phase, the the cocoon phase, if you will, because that's what we've entered into now, is the caterpillar is moving into the cocoon phase of breaking down of the old reality and the beginning of constructing of the new reality. That's what we're moving into right now. And that breaking down process is going to be very, very, very uncomfortable for people who don't know what it is, and very exciting for people who do know what it is. But that's the phase that humanity is moving into right now, is that chrysalis phase of breaking down and recreation. And depending on your perspective of it, it's either going to be really scary or very exciting. And then what comes out on the other end is this beautiful butterfly that humanity is going to be when we finish this reconstruction that we're in. And so, yeah, so we can see that what the planet is going to look like by the time it's finished. And we get to all be a part of it. That's what's exciting, you know. So for me, I tune in, I ask how long I'm going to be here. And what I'm always told is I will be here for as long as I'm needed.
Yeah, same. It's like asking a psychic, because you do sessions, I do sessions, and people will ask me, well, how long am I going to live on this life? And I say, I can't really tell you, because that's not for me to tell you. But if I tell you, your lifespan might change, and I cannot influence your lifespan. If you live until 90, or you live until 70 or 40 or 50, if I tell you, then you might die too early.
Right.
If I tell you, you know, you're going to live until 90, you might live until 50, actually, because something in the course of life will change for you, because I cannot influence somebody's lifespan. Right. I can see the lifespan if I'm asked that question, because I see everything in mathematical percentages. I can tell the person, but I can't guarantee that that's going to be the lifespan, because the universe can change that at any moment.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, that people expect time to be a timeline, and they don't understand that there really isn't a timeline, that every choice every single one of us make affects each other's life experiences. Mm-hmm. So what somebody in China does is going to affect my life experience. And that's, I think, really hard for a lot of people to grasp, that we're all intercreating this reality, every single one of us, by everything we think, everything we believe, everything we do. We're all intercreating it. And so you don't know, if one person makes a different choice over here, it could affect how long this person lives over here. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to get involved in trying to predict someone's life, because you don't know what other people's choices, someone else's choice might change that, right?
Yeah. Well,
even if we're going in and out of different timelines, different realities, it's just better to not even try to make that prediction. And why would you even want to know when you're going to die? It seems to me like it'd be shortchanging life if you're always worried about the date, the exit date.
Well, and people are asking, how long am I? They're not asking when they'll die. How long am I going to live, until what age? They're not asking specifically how they'll die. They're asking what the age, how long they will.
Right, but it's that still same kind of thing. So I grew up with basically with the belief that the only reason for being alive is so that we could die and go to heaven. So I grew up with a lot of people who couldn't wait to die, because they were so focused on life after death that they never really lived. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And people know when they're going to die. Are they really going to live? Because their part of them is always focused on their death date.
Exactly. Yeah. And as a psychic, I tell people, I have morals, and I can't tell you how long you're going to live, because that can change in a blink of an eye. Because time does not stand still. Time does not listen to what you want it to do for you. Time just flows, and it's flexible, and it moves. I don't even believe in linear in time, just these concepts. Everything is living, everything is expanding, everything is experiencing things. So I say to people, I can't tell you how long you're going to live, or how you die, or why you die. That's not important. What's important is what you do with your life now, and how you live it in this moment, in this space that you're in. Live it to the fullest, explore all your potentials,
Yep.
and be in a positive polarity, because you can't always be negative and dark and mean and grumpy. Try to live for the positive things. Look for the positive aspects. What makes you happy? What gives you the greatest joy of your experiences? And exploring what we are and where we are now, and the here and the now that, you know, makes us live. This is the experience. It's not looking down at your feet and at your shoe size and saying, when am I going to go? When I'm going to, this is not a prison planet to be stuck in. Don't think of it this way.
Yeah, I've never saw it that way. I know other people call it that, but I've never seen it that way.
Me neither. This is just another planet of exploration to learn from, just like other physical worlds are.
Yeah, and we chose here specifically, we chose to come here to experience the contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't see it as a prison planet. Now, have we been living in a fear-based reality? Sure. The contrast is very real. We came here, we agreed on a soul level to come and experience the contrast. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. It's finding your light in the darkness and finding a love within the fear is a really big challenge for every soul, but we felt up for the challenge.
Exactly.
I don't buy the whole prison planet thing.
I don't either.
Never worked for me.
No, it doesn't either. And people are like, I'm just so tired of being stuck here. I'm like, well, you're tired because something is happening to you, and you're stuck because there's a blockage that's in your life that's happening. Figure out why you're stuck, what the blockage is, and how to untangle that and change it from a negative polarity to a positive aspect, where you're creating creative solutions to get out of your problems and not complain and whine about having problems in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the problems persist. As long as that's the focus, if you're focused, you know, we know that, right? What we focus on persists. So if you're continually complaining about your problems, you'll just continue to create more of those same problems, because that's where your focus is. I choose to not focus on my problems. I look at them, I'm like, okay, I see you, I acknowledge you. Now what can I do to solve that?
Yeah.
Focus on the solution rather than the problem.
Yeah, right now there's a lot of rain out in that garden. It doesn't look pretty. It just looks like unfinished work, and change needs to be made in my garden. So I'll make it in the summer when it's nice and dry. I will move all the little rocks. I will move the H blocks. I will bring in the river rocks. I will stack. I will make beauty. It's fine. This is a project. It irritates me how it looks now because it's messy and it's not pretty, but that's okay.
It's winter. That's fine.
Exactly.
That's part of what winter is. Winter is a time to just sit and be and let things be, and then, you know, then the summer you go out and work on them. But this is a quiet time.
Yeah, well, this is my planning time of what I'm manifesting for the spring, summer, what it will look like. Because I want to go now and do this project, but it's soggy, it's raining, it's cold. I understand. I can plan this out already now. I can have my plan ready in what I'm manifesting to make a positive change in my gardens and for my trees and all the critters and all the beautiful beings living there. But I don't have to do it now. I can plan it out and be happy with what I plan. So I already have a manifestation in the works of what I'm going to do, because I already know what I want. So it's already been manifested into this reality.
Right. You know, it's interesting because winter is a masculine season. So masculine seasons and feminine seasons, and winter is a masculine season. And because when you from that perspective of, it's all about planning and strategizing. What is the garden going to look like before you plant it? That's all of that, right? So we're in this season of just the masculine is planning and strategizing, and it's also action. Right. But that's what summer is. Summer is all about action. This is the season of planning and strategizing, and you know, and then in the spring we move into the feminine, which is the planting and the celebration of the return of life and growth. So it's feminine. So it's great just to be in this and just to understand that this is part of the masculine feminine balance that also is part of 2022, is learning how to, we're balancing everything in 2022. and just to be okay with just being in the planning stage.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I'm Capricorn too. It's just part of my personality. When I see something that I want to improve or change, I just see, okay, this isn't working this way. So what can I see in the 4D dimension that will make it work for me? What can I change? What can I manifest to make it what it wants to be, what it needs to be? And I looked at it outside and I looked at it in the 4D. And the answer was just change the building materials and change the stacking method and just change the way it is and reuse the materials that were there, what we started with. It's just not working anymore. Reuse that. We're not going to throw away anything. We're just going to reorganize it into the expansion of our gardens in the summer, the H blocks, and just kind of add bigger rocks. So the children, the furry children, don't go and take them and play with them and put them in somebody else's yard. So
speaking of looking at things in 4D, I watched the video that you did a week or so ago about the Metatron's Cube and looking at it in 4D. And I wanted to share with you. So a couple of months ago, I was looking on Etsy for a Metatron piece of jewelry. And there is someone on Etsy who has that exact Metatron's Cube that you designed in available as a necklace.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting.
And it's metal, so you can actually choose your different metal choices. So I thought I would share that with you. I was like, because somebody else has used that exact same model that you found and that you were working with. And yeah, it's a necklace charm, or you can use it for meditation. It comes in everything from, I guess, platinum to gold to 14 karat gold. And some of them are really, really expensive because they're the real deal. But he took that same idea, and so I'm going to buy one for myself because.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I wanted to share that with you that because you and I were both kind of thinking on that same wavelength. That you saw it in the 4D and someone else did too.
And a friend of mine actually looked at that same video, and what they went on Amazon and they found a glass crystal sphere where the Metatron Cube is etched inside with the Merkaba. In the US, it's $31.99. In Canada, on Amazon.ca, it's $80.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this thing has a stand where it lights up with LED colors. So it changes color. You can just have it as pure white with the etching, or you can change the colors. You can hold it in your hand and meditate, and it comes on that silver stand where it stands on. You can turn on the LED. I'm like, that's a beautiful idea. It's just $80 for me is a little too expensive.
Yeah.
It's why is it $31.99 in the US and $80 in Canada? I don't see the rationale.
It's like I could buy it and send it to you for cheaper than that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm like,
although shipping into Canada is expensive.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is very expensive. It's like $15-$20 because I was looking at it, and they do ship it from the US to Canada. So it would be like $45-$60.
Yeah.
Shipping and taxes. It's like, why is there such inequality between these things? It's the same product.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know why shipping from the US to Canada is so expensive.
And these are the things that'll change in New Earth. We're not going to have these ridiculous prices, expenses for gas.
Right.
Because this creates inequality and segregation of people.
Yep.
If you can't afford your basic life things or sacred tools, what you want, it puts up a barrier. So it's like, why jack up the prices in another country so much?
It doesn't make any sense that it's going to be that much more expensive.
I don't know either. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing because it's in a glass sphere, and it's etched so beautifully in that pattern, but it has the Merkaba as well.
Right.
So I can send you.
And I know what you're talking about. I bought something like that about 20 years ago that actually has my shoot, I forgot the name of it. What they did when my daughter was in my belly, right? The ultrasound. So I had a picture of her ultrasound etched into one of those. It's actually really cool. And then it sits and it spins and the LED lights go around. So, but that was from 20 years ago. It shouldn't be that expensive now, 20 years later.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I get, and it's the same seller. I'm not sure. It's Zenato. It's called Zenato. That's the company. A lot of people have purchased it. Like there's 31 something reviews about it, all positive reviews.
Okay.
Yes, it's a beautiful concept. Like, and people, you could have it as a nightlight. You could have it as a sacred geometry collectible. And a lot of comments, people are saying they're meditating with it. So and when it's on the LED stand, of course, it changes the colors.
Right.
So it's kind of like that brings that color sacredness to it.
Right.
So I just don't understand the price difference. I understand it could be $10, $20 more in Canada because their currency is higher.
Right.
But between $31 and $80, there's a huge difference.
Yeah. There isn't that much of a difference between the American dollar and the US dollar.
No, not right now. There's like $1 difference. So I'm just not understanding the inequality of products on Amazon from one country to another. Like what is the rationale between that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just weird. It's just preventing people from buying that beautiful item to work with. So
well, there's tons of stuff on Etsy.
Yeah, definitely.
So many. I mean, that's where I have Metatron's Cube. You can't really see it, but behind my head, there's a Metatron's Cube also. And I got that on Etsy, and that's one of my favorite stores.
Yeah, mine too.
And I like that I'm supporting a local artist or an artist rather than.
Yeah, I found a lot of things on Etsy, but I didn't find anything that has the sphere and the etching. Like this, my friend found this on Amazon so anybody in the States, no problem. It's going to be $31.99. I'll leave a link to it below so people can go and have a look at it if they want it as an option to meditate with. It is beautiful option. So just in Canada, it's more expensive. It's like $80. So I'll leave the US link for folks. I could probably ask a friend. She has parents in the States and they can order it. And so for me, I'm like, if I really wanted it, I could ask somebody and I just pay them the correct, difference between Canadian and US. So it's not really a problem for me. If I wanted, I could still get it. It's just, I find it weird that the prices would be different. It's just why make it inaccessible for people? That's what I don't get. Yeah, so I'll include the link for it. And if anybody wants to try to meditate with it and get that universal knowledge experience, because it gives you wisdom working with the Metatron Cube, right? It just brings in downloads of soul wisdom and soul growth. That's what I learned from it, working from it, because I have it in a few sacred grids and crystal grids as well. Just like you have the printed version of it, I have it. I
put my water on it. That's actually my water coaster.
Nice. Well, it's beautiful. It definitely has a high vibration factor to it that I love about it. It's just when I work with that energy, it's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite sacred geometry symbols to work with.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so that's why I was doing so much research and connecting to it in videos so people can understand what you can do, just energetically seeing it in your 4D mind, just seeing it even. You can energetically connect it to it. You don't need to print it. You don't need to buy a glass sphere with it etched inside. You can connect to it already in the 4D, in the energetic space, just by visualizing it.
Yep.
Because it's energetic, it's frequency. That's how it exists. But we manifest it in 3D by creating the object and working with a tool. It's a sacred tool. So
and printing is easy. If somebody wanted to print something, you can just grab it off the internet and print it.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that with the crystal grid basis, and I put crystals on it, and it's worked. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to 3D print the object. now, and that's what I'm working with a fellow to do that, to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It really is about frequency and the colors and the spectrums and the sizes. And it has to have that Merkaba aspect with the spheres.
Right.
That's what creates the Metatron Cube. And it has to be that way to honor the work of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not changing anything, not reinventing the wheel, because it's perfect as it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how to 3D print it. It's more of a challenge.
Right.
But it's a beautiful project that I will work through, and then I will meditate with it, and people will see it, because I believe that teaching wisdom is not just about talking about it, but actually doing it, doing the work. So thank you so much, Victoria. It's just such a blessing.
Thank you. It was so great to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've all been working on special projects that help to teach wisdom and give wisdom tools for folks. So it's like, it's not that we don't see each other, it's just we're working on very important spiritual things, and then we connect and we talk and we share such beautiful wisdom together. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be here.
So happy. Blessings.
You too.
Oh, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.